Well, there's nothing that goes better with football than beer, and we're excited to have Golden Road Brewing as one of our newest sponsors for the show. Founded in 2011, Golden Road is Los Angeles' largest craft brewery with brew pub locations across California.
Golden Road is excited to celebrate the Kansas City Chiefs with its partnership beer, Kingdom Blonde Ale. Kingdom Blonde is available at local retailers and in the Chiefs Stadium during regular seasons.
Golden Road's year-round offerings include Mango Cart Wheat Ale, Wolf Pup IPA, and Fruit Cart Hard Seltzer. Golden Road brewers are constantly experimenting with the freshest ingredients to keep fans' taste buds happy with a collection of rotating seasonals, creative flavors, and classic craft brews.
Pick up a case of Golden Road beer at your local store to enjoy before the next game. Visit goldenroad.la/beerfinder to buy Golden Road beer now.
This is your Olympic hero and former WWE champion, Kurt Angle. And I just wanted to give a shout out to my guys, Clint and Noah. When it comes to covering sports, there is no one better. And believe me, that's true. It's damn true.
Gentlemen, you are the top 1%.
The elite. Best of the best.
You are now listening to the Elite Sports Podcast, brought to you by Vermeil Wines and powered by GASN Sports, the pinnacle of hard-hitting sports talk, featuring weekly expert analysis and top-notch interviews. And now, please welcome your hosts, Noah Groniger and Clint Schweitzer.
It is officially the first Elite Sports Podcast of 2021. Noah, we have flipped that calendar over. Better times are ahead, or so we think. How's it going, man? Happy New Year to you. Happy New Year to all of our listeners. Thanks for staying with us here on the Elite Sports Podcast through what was a very trying year of 2020, but Noah, one for us that we look back on with a lot of reverence because we were able to interview and have so many wonderful guests on our show. You think back to guys like Jerry Porter, Jim McMahon, Dick Vermeil, Carl Peterson, Jarvis Green, the list goes on, Marcus Lattimore, Ike Taylor. It's been such a prolific year for us on the podcast, and I can't help but think that this new advent of being virtual, being at home, that Zoom was so integral in us being able to do these interviews and especially doing it on video. That has been something that I'm really excited about and really glad that was able to take place for 2020 is now all of our interviews, or at least 90% of them, Noah, they're available on our YouTube channel. You can go to our YouTube channel, GASN Sports, and watch these interviews on video. Pretty cool, right?
Absolutely. And Happy New Year to you, my friend. I mean, this is exciting stuff here that we got coming up. The NFL playoffs, you mentioned it being a trying year. Of course, everyone knows it has been. We're looking for better things ahead in 2021. But man, the NFL did a great job. They got all 256 games in, regular season games, and we are ready to roll here for the playoffs. It wasn't pretty. There were some cancellations as far as the game happening on time, and they'd move it to a Monday, a Tuesday. We even had some Wednesday games. But, man, they all got played, and here we are for the NFL playoffs. And our Chiefs, the number one seed in the AFC, they procured it as the Steelers faltered down the stretch. And who are we going to play? Will it be the Colts? Will it be the Browns, Ravens, Titans? It is up for grabs here to see who we play. I'm not scared of anybody. I'm tired of being scared. I spent my whole life as a Chiefs fan being scared, cowering in a corner. Who's it going to be? Oh, but they have a good running game, a good defense, a good quarterback, good receivers. How are we going to stop them? How are we going to gain any yards? Not anymore. It's everyone else's turn to be scared of us.
Hey, I'll tell you, the metrics are going to tell you that more likely than not, the winner of the Titans-Ravens is going to be the team that comes to Arrowhead Stadium a week from this weekend. We will see what happens. You got to get a Colts upset or a Browns upset to sort of upset the apple cart there. But this is Super Wildcard weekend, Noah, the very first one in NFL history. I say Super Wildcard because there are, in fact, 14 playoff teams instead of 12. And as much as my regimented OCD sports brain absolutely hates change, the fact that there's now an extra playoff game, I kind of am enjoying that, especially when your favorite team is the one seed and you're sitting back and kind of watching it all unfold in front of you. I like this, 7 team in each conference wild card weekend. I'm going to lock in and really be ready to enjoy all these games and just see where the kind of dominoes fall. What about you? When you look at this, adding the extra playoff team, it seemed really kind of inconsequential at the time, but really in the AFC, at least, you look at it and you say, hey, the Indianapolis Colts, They're the 7 seed at 11-5. We got all the 7 teams in. The Dolphins were on the outside looking in at 10-6. Mostly 10-6 teams make the playoffs. They didn't this year, but it took 7 teams just to get 11-5 teams in there. So it worked on the AFC side. On the NFC, not so much. But I'm excited to have this 7th game. But don't get me started on 17 regular season games. We'll tackle that next year, but I'm already dreading that.
As am I. A record of 14-3 just doesn't sit right with me in my brain. But man, these 7 playoff teams out of each conference, like you said, I wasn't too sure about it. The 1 seed, it looked like the Steelers were going to get it all year. Just like we're far and away the 2 seed, but now the 2 seed doesn't get a bye. And but the Chiefs, they did it. They were really hot down the stretch, winning close games, but winning them all to get that number 1 seed. And like you said, we've got a full slate of games on Saturday, a full slate of games on Sunday. Before this year, it was having to wait usually till 3 o'clock and then a night game, or you didn't get a night game. It was noon and 3. So you've got a full slate. Your entire day on Saturday and Sunday will be taken up by playoff game after playoff game after playoff game. You go to sleep, you wake up, playoff game, playoff game, playoff game. I am super ready for Super Wildcard Weekend. I don't know about you, but this part of it, we're not sure about the 17-game regular season, but these 7 playoff teams in each conference, I think we're both excited for this.
How about back-to-back triple headers on Saturday and Sunday, followed by the college football national championship game, Ohio State and Alabama on Monday? That's going to be 3 straight days of wonderment and magic. I'm in for all of it. So coming up here, we are going to be bringing on a very special guest this week, guys. We talked about the Zoom interviews. We talked about how important the interviews are to us here on The Elite. Well, today we're going to be talking with none other than former Mizzou All-American, former NFL tight end Chase Coffman, going to be joining us to talk about his career at Mizzou, playing on those great offenses in 07 and 08 with Chase Daniel, playing alongside guys like Martin Rucker and Will Franklin and Jeremy Maclin and Denario Alexander and Tony Temple. The list goes on. That, those Missouri teams put the program on the map under Gary Pinkel, ascending to number 1 in the country back in 2007 before losing to Oklahoma in the Big 12 championship game, which put Ohio State and LSU in that national title game, a 2-loss LSU. So Missouri was right there on the cusp of a national title in 07. Chase Coffman was hurt, did not play against Oklahoma. Definitely a key factor for why Missouri was not able to win that game. But honestly, one of the great college tight ends that I can remember, in my lifetime, especially here at the University of Missouri. He comes in as an unheralded 3-star recruit out of Raymore Peculiar. He's a Kansas City guy. His dad played for the Green Bay Packers in the 70s, and then Chase Coffman, makes his dreams come true at the University of Missouri and then gets drafted by the Bengals back in 2009. So this is going to be great to be able to catch up with Chase Coffman, a guy that I had such reverence for back when he played, just as a Missouri fan in my 20s. And now to have him on, this is really special. And Chase sure was a good one, wasn't he?
Absolutely. Maybe a tight end before his time. He's more of like you see today in the likes of Travis Kelce, a big wide receiver, splitting him out wide. We saw him on those Bengals Hard Knocks episodes. Coaches yelling at him. We're going to talk to him about that, get into that. But, man, they wanted his hand in the dirt. And he's like, man, if I could just push my career a few years down the road, I could be a Travis Kelce, split out and maybe have a much better career than he ended up having with coaches trying to get his hand in the dirt and trying to fit him into their scheme instead of saying, hey, look what this guy can do, and we need to fit our scheme around him.
Well, to see where Missouri was at that time, just you, as someone that watches college football, a lot of it, when Missouri emerged onto that scene, and you got guys like him and Martin Rucker in 07, and those are 2 tight ends that were so deadly on the field. I mean, you think about tight end combinations like, Rob Gronkowski and Aaron Hernandez in the NFL, and then you think back to what that was at the college level. Just when Missouri emerged like that, and you started hearing names like Chase Coffman. I mean, what as a casual observer, was it kind of shocking? Was it like, wow, this is just a perfect storm for this school to be able to, outshine the Nebraskas and the Kansas States at the time, and Missouri really became into the national spotlight at that point?
They absolutely did. Growing up with you and my friend Brian Cooper, I mean, I heard all the horror stories of Missouri football, Missouri basketball, just being a Missouri fan, and just how it always goes wrong, how there's devastating losses that shouldn't have been losses, national championships stolen. I mean, I heard it all. And man, when these guys came along, you talked about Chase Coffman, Chase Daniel, Jeremy Maclin, all those guys that they had on the offensive side of the ball. I mean, it was a revelation, just a new life just breathed into that Missouri football program and the fans. And it was just fun to watch them going up and down the field, fighting to be number one in the country, fighting for a national championship. Didn't quite happen, but man, there were some great times there for Missouri fans. And it wasn't all the devastating and downtrodden times that I had grown up hearing about. So that was good to see you guys have some excitement and some smiles on your faces.
Well, we're going to talk to him about the program now. And Eli Drinkwitz coming off a 5-5 season, landing 4-star recruit after 4-star recruit. The needle is definitely pointing up on the program. But without further ado, guys, we're going to get into a little bit more of sports topics after our interview with Chase Coffman, which, by the way, once again is available on our YouTube channel. GAS in Sports is the YouTube. Subscribe and check out probably 90% of our interviews we do. They're right there for you on YouTube. But let's go ahead and take you to our interview right after this with none other than former Mizzou All-American Chase Coffman. Guys, we have so much still to come here on the Elite Sports Podcast, but we want to take this time to tell you about our new sponsor, 500 Level. 500 Level is the ultimate sports apparel and fan gear store, and they feature ultra-comfortable custom t-shirts for NFL, NBA, MLB, NHL, and even WWE. I just got a Macho Man Randy Savage shirt from 500 Level that has been a conversation starter everywhere I go. 500 Level was created because they decided it was time to create an apparel company that put the fans right in the mix, instead of having to outfit themselves with the same old gear from major corporations. 500level.com works with exceptionally talented artists, designers, and diehard sports fans to create unique t-shirt designs for fans to wear with pride. I mean, here in Kansas City, it's time to defend that Lombardi trophy. So stock up in 500 Level's unbelievable inventory of never-before-seen designs for players like Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, Tyreek Hill, or even rookie Clyde Edwards-Helaire. You literally can't find that anywhere else. Use promo code KansasCity20 today for 20% off your order at 500level.com. That's promo code KansasCity20 for 20% off only at 500level.com. Chase, this is such a pleasure, by the way, man, to have you on here, because it just seems like yesterday I was in my early 20s, traveling around the country, watching the 2017 Missouri Tigers play with every last dollar I had, man. It's just 13 years goes by pretty quick, doesn't it?
So quick. And it's fun to look back and kind of see how that's affected my life now and really how special it was then.
So many people, because Chase, a little bit about us here and our brand. We're, finishing up work on an SEC football documentary where we traveled around and talked to so many former players and so many former Missouri players, Sean Weatherspoon and so many more. But the sentiment from so many players, and we're talking about guys that played in the NFL just like you did, they always kind of go back and say, in hindsight, when my career's over, I look back and I identify myself with those 4 years that I played out with those guys at that university. Would you say that's kind of the case for you as well?
Well, I got cut 12 times in the NFL and was with 6 different teams, and never for 4 straight years with the guys that, are all there. There's so much turnover in the NFL. And I mean, that hits the nail right on the head. You just build a bond in college with at least for me, and it sounds like a lot of the other guys that you've talked with, that you don't really get to in the NFL because of the business aspect of it.
So tell us kind of what you're up to these days. As I understand it, you're back in the Raymore Peculiar area, and tell us where kind of people can find you and what you're up to these days, man.
Yeah. So my wife and I, my wife is from the Ray-Pec area as well. We dated since high school. And so living back in Peculiar, and working, we have 3 kids, 7, 5, and 1. And I started into financial advising. That's something that I figured that I needed to know more about. And it also gives me a little bit of flexibility of not necessarily a 9-to-5, but still putting in hours. And there's a lot of people that need that help, man. It's one of the most important things in life. And I think one of my coaches in Atlanta said it best. The opportunity to play in the NFL, it provides you with so much, and, the paycheck being one of them. And he said, it's money's not everything, but it's right up there with oxygen. And that's, I mean, that's right. It provides you with a lot of opportunities and a lot of options. And I really want to be wise with the money that I've been given to steward and help people do the same. So I'm working with a company, BMG Advisors, in Kansas City. Our office is right down on the plaza. And on LinkedIn, on Twitter, and you can look me up on there.
Well, I hope people will definitely do that. As you've been away from the game now, kind of officially for about 4 years, what is, when you look back, and you talked about being cut as many times as you were in the NFL. You were a 3rd round pick though, the Cincinnati Bengals. And, with a lot of promise, you were coming off being an All-American. And I remember early on, that was, I think, the year the Bengals were on Hard Knocks. And I think that there was something in there, one of the coaches saying like, you're from Missouri, you don't know how to block yet, or something like that. I mean, what was the transition like for you? Is that something that is true to form? Because I mean, the tight ends in that offense, I mean, you and T. Rucker, and I mean, you guys are playing slot receiver basically. So was there some transition there for you?
Yeah, that was huge. And going right in, like you said, on Hard Knocks, I think my tight ends coach had played up to that a little bit. And if you watched the Hard Knocks that year in 2009, I probably got cussed out on every show. But yeah, I mean, we had Rucker and I, what an opportunity at Mizzou to catch passes, right? But didn't really get our hands in the dirt that much. And both being drafted to Ohio teams in the AFC North, where it's kind of a ground and pound and just grinded out style of play. I don't think it was the best fit for either of us. And it was tough, and not that I wasn't unwilling. It was just, I think the system that we were both put into, and just the lack of opportunity to do what we were really good at.
Well, what I think so interesting about the kind of the 07 team is how the team was basically built on people like yourself, people like Lorenzo Williams, Sean Weatherspoon, Denario Alexander, guys that, and of course Jeremy Maclin, but he was a 4-star recruit, but guys that came in that were a little unheralded as far as recruits go, that came in and really, built this foundation. And it didn't happen immediately. You came in and played a lot as a freshman in 05 when you guys went, I think, 6-5 and made it to the Independence Bowl. So what was that like, kind of coming in and building that foundation that wound up leading and coming to, it doesn't always, you come in and you blindly are putting in this work and trying to build this, not knowing what the outcome was even going to be at that point.
Yeah, that's the best way to put it. I mean, you just have to have that blind faith and kind of trust the fact that, okay, I've been recruited by this group of coaches. I somewhat know the names of the guys on the roster, and I've had my visits and gotten to know the guys on this sky high level. I just have to go off of that. There's a lot of prayer that went into that decision, and praise the Lord for me and all those people there at that time. From the top down, Mike Alden, and then Gary Pinkel, our strength staff, our training staff, our equipment staff, everybody was doing the right things to set us up for success. And then the players there, Brad Smith, he was a great leader my freshman year. We had a lot of guys that you have already mentioned, Chase Daniel. And we just had a solid group that put in the work and kind of knew what it took to be good, that you're going to have to work, you're going to have to grind, you're going to have to pick each other up, but also hold each other accountable. And I think we did a good job of doing that. And the biggest thing that I always tell people is the selflessness of that team. There's a lot of balls to go around, but if somebody didn't have a big game and we still won, they weren't hanging their head. And that was one thing that I really respect about the guys that I played with.
Well, when you look at that offense, by the time 07 comes around, Chase Daniel, as a junior, you guys are humming along. You and T. Ruck are playing tight end. Will Franklin, you got Tommy Saunders who come in as a walk-on from Kearney, Missouri. You guys, Jeremy Maclin, Darnell Alexander. I mean, this collection of offensive weapons and talent is something that I don't know that we'll ever really see again. It was just so special. What was it like, just that offense, knowing what you guys could do? Was it almost just like, okay, I liken it to kind of the Chiefs today, where it's like, I'm sorry, you're not allowed to have a drive where you don't put points on the board. You know what I mean? It's almost becomes like where you have to score almost every possession just because you're supposed to. You have the ability to. What was it like just kind of playing with those guys and in that offensive scheme? Because Gary Pinkel had to completely change everything he had been doing up to that point. He switched to the spread when that wasn't what he was about before that. So what was it like?
Yeah, it was exciting. Like you said, every play there's a chance for, a highlight reel play to be there. And so, for me, it was like, okay, every time I go out there, I have a chance to, number one, catch a pass. And if not catch a pass, right, if it's a run or maybe a play designed for somebody else, I have a chance to block for that person to get the opportunity to score. And I think our coaches did a good job of just, pounding that into our heads is, even if you're 20 yards down the field, you still have to get the block for the guy that, what if he springs it? Do you want to be the guy that's on film that says, hey, we only got a 20-yard gain. That's great. But if you would have just got your block, if you would have just done your job, right, then we could have had a touchdown this play. Right. And so, and again, like going back to the accountability, that's kind of where we held each other is, hey, this is the standard that we want to be at. And if we want to be at the top, we got to hold each other accountable and put in the work that produces this outcome.
Well, when you look at kind of how the season ended, is it a bit surreal for you to kind of look back to that? You're a Kansas City guy. You go to Ray-Pac High School, play for Tom Cruise there. Who I think just finished up his career, man. What a career it's been for him. But you're a Kansas City guy. You wind up playing Kansas at Arrowhead to, for the right to win the division, to be number one in the nation at that point. And then to win that game and then to not be able to play against Oklahoma, you get injured against Oklahoma, taken out of that. And then to see Kansas get to go play in the Orange Bowl while you guys go and just, kind of blow Arkansas off the field. When you look at the ending of that season, was it just an emotional roller coaster because everybody put so much into that Kansas game, and then all of a sudden a week later it's over as far as the national championship goes, but you still have the opportunity in the Cotton Bowl? What was that kind of like for you?
Yeah, a little bit, but I think the coaches did a great job of just like, hey, look, we can't control these things, right? Like, we're just going to do our job. And for me, it sucked. I got hurt on an extra point attempt in the Kansas game. I'd had some bone spurs and some ankle problems that actually started in the first Oklahoma game that year, and just couldn't really push off on that foot, and just more. I think better for me to let somebody else have that role where they could have actually, made some plays during that game instead of just taking up space on the field. And that argument could be made either way, but that was the decision that we collectively made as a team and training staff and coaching staff and myself. And, I don't, what if, right? What if I would have been full health? I don't know, but still ended up being a pretty awesome and memorable year.
Yeah,
and, and to go in there and really, put the icing on the cake by knocking off a pretty good Arkansas team that, again, I don't know if they were fully in it, but it is what it is, and we whooped them.
Well, yeah, we talked to Peyton Hillis about that in the offseason, and he pretty much said the exact same thing that you did. He just said, they whooped us. That's it. I think he's used that exact same quote. So for 2008, the focus is more heavily on you because Martin Rucker moves on. He graduates, and you're kind of the featured tight end. You're an All-American that year. And but you guys suffer a heartbreaking loss to Oklahoma State. And we've talked to a lot of players that said, of course we didn't quit on the season after that loss, but there was so much hope and so much expectations that loss took some, air out of the sail, so to speak. What was that like for you? Do you kind of agree with that losing that game on that stage and then, kind of going to Texas the next week, and it was just a downhill situation from at that point? Still won 10 games, still won the Big 12 North. good season, but not what it maybe could have been. Was that loss?
It was a little bit deflating. I would still argue I got called down on the 1 yard line on a screen pass. We had to kick a field goal, and I believe that I scored. And I would still argue that had that been called the way that I thought it was, I think we would have won. And they were a good team that year. They had a really good team, and for whatever reason, I don't think we let up, but it was a tough game for us. And going forward, we did all we could to just continue doing what we could control. And again, coming down to Texas, who was a great team as well. I think they made it to the national championship that year, I believe.
Yeah, that was I think that was the year they wound up getting in some weird 3-way tie. I think Oklahoma still wound up in the championship. That's when they lost to Florida, but they wound up in a 3-way tie. That was the Crabtree and all that.
That's it.
Yeah, and I was at that game at Texas too, and it's like before my seats were so high, it was incredible. It was right after they'd done that renovation. By the time I got up there, it was like 21-0, I think, and it was just, it's I remember a lot about that. And it was, I think we finally got in the end zone. Denario catches a touchdown in the corner, and they review it, and they overturn it. It was just like, this is just not, nothing's going to go right.
not much went our way.
That's how it goes.
I do remember having myself a pretty good statistical game.
See?
Unfortunately, that was about it.
What does the university mean to you today? Because since that has happened, Missouri's on its third coach since then. Barry, it didn't work out, for Barry Odom, and now Eli Drinkwitz is in there, and we've seen a lot of promise from that. What when you have all these years, 12 years of looking back, what does the program mean to you today?
Oh man, it's again kind of going back to where we started, right? Like I was extremely blessed to be surrounded by a group of people that really picked me up and held me accountable, and that did their job the way that I expected myself to do my own job. I still keep in touch with a lot of people down there. Columbia is an amazing city. I try to get down there a little bit, take my wife and kids down there for maybe a game a year or just an event a year, so we can get back there. And I think that we're still headed in the right direction as far as an organization and football team. I like Conzo Martin and the things that he's trying to do for the basketball players. I know that across the board, I think we have some really good coaches, Brian Smith and the wrestling program. But growing up a kid in just south of Kansas City in Missouri, and believing that I'd probably always be around the Kansas City area unless there was unless there was something that I felt like God was just saying, this is where I want you. For me to go to Mizzou and have the success that we had while I was there, that means a lot. And I believe it's given me a lot of opportunity to continue, speaking life into people, and also in my career going forward.
And I think for someone like yourself, as recruiting is such an important part of especially somewhere like at Missouri that's in the SEC and has to compete with so many big programs. But someone like you is a true testament to the fact that you can be from this state, you can go play for the state school, you can have success, you can go to the NFL, you can accomplish all your dreams, right here.
Yeah.
Is that something that you talk to people about?
I do. When given the opportunity, to some young kids, I want to tell them, Mizzou's not the place for everybody, right? Like, I want it to be. I want all the best recruits to go there. I want you to do what's best for yourself. But, being from here, being from the state, and going to the in-state school, and again, like myself, if you're ever going to be back around this area, like you do have all the opportunity in the world to get done and to meet the goals that you have set out for yourself, whatever those are, right? And football, it's going to end someday, and if you're going to come back to any area in Missouri or surrounding Missouri, right, you're going to have the support of the Mizzou fan base, right? As long as you have, respected the name on the front and the back of your jersey.
Yeah, and that's something that is maybe changing in the college football landscape a little bit. The transfer portal, and it's so easy to just go play somewhere else. I'm not playing enough. I don't like this. It's so easy to just go somewhere else and start over. What do you see when you look at kind of the game now and how it's changed a little bit?
Yeah, it's a fine line entering the transfer portal or just staying put. I think there's a lot to be said for staying put and, working through something hard. It really teaches you a lot about yourself, a lot about what you're capable of doing. And, the grass isn't always greener. It has, there's been cases where it's worked out. And on the other hand, I feel like there's a lot more cases where you're still the same guy, like there is opportunity where, man, this system just isn't what I thought it was. And I don't fit the system. Right. And, maybe you find the right system, but there's always, somebody coming up the next recruiting class, no different than the NFL. There's another draft class next year where they're going to try to replace you with somebody better. And, and if you can stick it out, right, those 3, 4, 5 years, whatever it is for you, I think that there's a lot to be said for that and a lot of support that you'll continue to get after that.
Well, Chase, you're just a tremendous ambassador to the university, and I'm just so glad that things are going well for you and that you're back here in the state of Missouri and, and are being, successful and happy and everything like that. It was a true pleasure watching you play and now being able to be, see it from this side, the media side. It's like, man, I wish I was a little older so I could have actually covered that team, because there was so many special people and so many people that we've talked to since. That's like, wow, it's just a collection of people that it's just really hard to put it into words because there's so many different personalities, yet you guys kind of united for a common goal. And I know that's something that you'll kind of be able to keep with you forever. And that's a really powerful thing, isn't it?
Yeah. Very, very special. I still keep in contact with a lot of those guys. And don't say it won't happen again, because I believe we're close.
Yeah. The St. Louis side, Coach Eli Drinkwitz is really knocking out of the park in a lot of ways. But man, he's getting that St. Louis side. Just Mookie Cooper, the receiver from Ohio State, transfers in today. We got to get the Kansas City side, kind of going in there as well. And I know there's a good program right there, probably a few miles from where you're sitting. So we got to kind of round this thing out. We got to get Kansas City back in there too. We got to make this kind of, get both sides rolling, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of talented kids in this state, and if you can get everybody bought into one common goal, there's no telling where it can go.
Well, Chase, I tell you what, we could talk about this stuff for a long time, because it was such a foundation for me. I came in, when Corby Jones was down there and my dad taking me to games, and to see that through, and being a Missouri fan is not always easy. It's just, it's not, I always say that there's not a single bandwagon Missouri fan out there. They just don't exist.
Yeah.
Because you got to buy in. And when you have moments that come to fruition, like it did in 2007, and it just makes it that much more gratifying. And I think we'll see more times like that coming forward. But I hope everybody will reach out, especially anyone that has any financial planning needs. You can follow you on Twitter at Chase_Coffman. Be sure that you do that. Chase, you're just, again, great guy. We got to get your your Zoom signage game going up there a little bit in your office there. We need to get you a sign like mine or something to kind of dress it up back there.
I got my family pictures.
There you go.
Yeah, my kids.
See that
actually a football that I had. I'll pull this up. This football that I had up here, it was just sitting in my basement. It was from a Seahawks game where I scored a touchdown. And it got stolen out of my office a couple months ago when COVID was kind of a little bit more strict, and somebody had came through the office when things were kind of shut down and took it.
Well,
but luckily somebody tipped me off and was able to get it back on on Facebook.
Wow. See the power of social media. That's incredible. Well, that's awesome, Chase. Again, thanks so much, my friend. Stay safe and stay healthy, man. We'll definitely be in contact. All good things going forward, man. Thanks again so much.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Clint. Thank you for your time.
Anytime, brother. Thank you. Well, that's kind of surreal catching up with a guy like Chase Coffman, because as a guy in my early 20s that was just so on fire for sports, for Mizzou football, to finally have that come to fruition, it was awesome. And to have him join us there was really cool, especially, he starts the interview by putting the Mizzou helmet on. He's got in his office. He's got a signed football there in his office in Raymore Peculiar. He's a financial advisor now. So look him up. You can get a hold of him at Chase_Coffman. And you can, if you have any wealth management needs, which you have to have some wealth, I'm told, to have this need. So we're unfortunately out, but for any real person out there, definitely hit up Chase. He's a great guy, great ambassador for the university. And honestly, I think as a guy that had some of the best hands I've ever seen in football, the softest hands, he made some of the most prolific catches that I could ever remember from that position. And I think his NFL career, it could have been longer. Like you said, maybe in today's climate, that it's more suited for a tight end like Chase Coffman, like Martin Rucker, even like Michael Agnew later, guys that did not really have their hands in the dirt. We got Albert Okwuegbunam there in Denver currently, and, has a pretty good start to his career. We'll see where things go from there. But Noah, this is a big weekend in sports. We're looking forward to next weekend. The Kansas City Chiefs, Travis Kelce has admitted that the Chiefs just pressed the fast forward button. And if that's the case, if what Travis Kelce is telling us is true, and we've seen the Chiefs, who won their last 7 of their last 8 games. Of course, they lost the meaningless game to the Chargers, but they won those 10 straight games before losing that game, and 7 of them were, in fact, by 6 points or less. They hit the fast-forward button. That's what Travis Kelce is saying. That shows up in the box score. Does that make this Chiefs team one of the greatest NFL teams of all time? They just showed up, did what was necessary to win, and moved on. Is this some sort of super team that when we get to be here in the playoffs and they got the Ravens, the Titans coming in, the Browns, whoever it's going to be, that we see them just absolutely turn this on and run roughshod through the AFC playoffs?
I think it is, and that's something that we had speculated on this very show for weeks and maybe even months, going back to that Raiders loss and then some close wins there after the stretch, pretty much all the way down the line. And we saw this team and what they were doing, and we're just like, this is way too talented. I thought they would come into the season wanting to just demolish everyone and just outscore everyone and put on a show and just put a stamp on the season as, no, we're going to reclaim the Super Bowl championship. We're going to run it back like they're talking about. We're going to make it 2 in a row here. But man, like you said, Travis Kelce came out and admitted, man, we wanted to fast forward. Is it the playoffs already? We just wanted to get there. And I think teams are going to be overlooking the Chiefs, as crazy as that might sound, because they've seen how they played. They kind of stumbled down the stretch this last month of the season of December. And I think that whoever it is that comes into Arrowhead for the divisional round, I think they're going to be feeling pretty good. They're going to win their wild card game. They've been playing well down the stretch, whether it's the Colts or the Ravens, even the Browns, the Titans. I think they're going to feel good coming into Arrowhead saying, hey, this isn't the same team as last year. We've seen what they've done, a lot of close wins. They've kind of faltered on offense here and there. Patrick Mahomes isn't playing at as high of a level as we had seen last year and at certain spots this season, but down the stretch, he hasn't been playing super well. It seems like he lost the MVP to Aaron Rodgers down the stretch, but I just think the Chiefs are going to be locked in and super hyper-focused on the job at hand, getting back. This is what they've been waiting for all season long. That's what Travis Kelce was getting at. We wanted to fast forward and get to here. I think they are going to be able to flip the switch. I think they're going to be focused in, and they are going to get it done.
That all remains to be seen. Before we sign off here on this week's edition of the Elite Sports Podcast, I do have to ask you this, because as we look around, especially the AFC, I think in the NFC, the truth of it is I don't expect any surprises. I know a lot of people would just love to see Alex Smith and the Washington football team upset the Bucs. And I'm not saying that's out of the question, but right now Alex Smith is maybe even questionable for the game. We're not sure where that's going to even go, if he's going to even be available. And, you got games like Bears, Saints. I just don't think there's a lot of intrigue there. But in the AFC, which was hotly contested all year, those records, like I said, we have a 7 seed that's 11-5. That is a rarefied situation. Do we expect any surprises? Do we expect any fireworks? Can you see the Colts upsetting the Bills? Can we get a Browns over Steelers? And then what do we expect in the 4-5 game? Titans and Ravens. I don't know that there's really I don't know how to handicap that when the Titans seem to have the Ravens number, and still, as it may be, that is just a closely contested game, and I don't think that there's really an upset either way there. Do you see any upsets coming out of this?
I'd like to say the Browns, but their coach, Kevin Stefanski, is not going to be coaching the game because of COVID. So their special teams coach, Mike Prefer, is going to step up as the assistant coach. He's going to be placed in that head coach role. And so I don't know if they're going to be just firing on all cylinders and really have that cohesion as a team coming together to beat the Steelers. It could happen, but it's just more of a long shot now that their head coach isn't there. I think the Colts have every chance to go into Buffalo and win that football game. I think it's closely contested all the way down the line in the AFC in this playoff race, the wild card weekend. So I could see any of those teams winning, whether it's the Colts, the Browns, and like you said, the Ravens and Titans is kind of a coin flip. I like the Ravens in that game to win. I'd like to see the Browns or Colts knock either the Steelers or Bills off and come to Arrowhead, and maybe the only team we got to play that is really looked at as a contender is maybe the Baltimore Ravens in the AFC Championship game.
Well, guys, we can't thank you enough for being a part of us, not only in 2021, but for all the years we've been doing this, all the way back to, believe it or not, Noah, 2012. We're entering our 9th year as an entity. GASNsports.com, that is our website. So be sure to go there and check out all of our articles and our archives, our podcasts, our interviews. Everything is archived there. Again, our YouTube channel. You can get the videos of these interviews. Always hit us up on social media, GASN Sports. Just search it, and you will find us, and you can interact with us there. We always appreciate it. As far as the podcast goes, guys, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Stitcher, or Spotify, any way you choose to take in the show, we've got your back. You've got a smartphone, you've got this show. Always thank our sponsors, Golden Road Brewing. I tell you what, the Kingdom Ale, the clock is ticking. Get to your local Hy-Vee. Pick up a case of the Kingdom Blonde Ale or the Mango Cart and help celebrate this playoff season with your Kansas City Chiefs. And, of course, our good friends at 500 Level, 500level.com. The shirts are unique, custom, and they're just super comfy. I've got so many shirts now in my closet, Noah. They're stuffed full. Macho Man Randy Savage, Patrick Mahomes, NFL, WWE, NHL, Major League Baseball, throwbacks. It's all there. 500level.com. Thank you guys so much again for joining us here on The Elite.